Good afternoon, everyone. Good day, good morning, depending on where you are. And welcome to session 9 of the Content Hub Revolution. And thank you for joining us. It's been quite a journey, and there's been many of you who've joined us across all these webinars, many people watching the recordings. So thanks so much for your time and attention. We've got another great session today about content hubs and retail. And let's face it, this has been an extremely interesting year for retail. We've already had, of course, a sort of generational transformation when it comes to retail in the last 15, 20 years, where we never thought we'd be able to buy absolutely anything on the internet. But of course, now we can. And there's a reason that Jeff Bezos is now one of the richest people on the planet because of this transformation that we've all gone through. So things that have been traditionally sold in stores, especially this year, even smaller retailers have implemented e-commerce strategy. They've had to accelerate digitization, and of course there's been direct consumer sites that maybe existed before or didn't exist before that were overwhelmed this year with the number of people who had expectations of e-commerce. So today we're going to talk about how retailers are using different sorts of technologies, of course, content hubs and others, to really adapt and integrate and to be able to really respond to this incredible e-commerce and digital retail imperative that's happened this year. So we've got 3 great speakers today, Lucille, Fred, and Sébastien. And like I said on LinkedIn, we've got smart French people delivering your webinar today. So I have to say, of all the countries I missed the most from not traveling this year, France is definitely at the top of the list. So a little bit about Lucille. She works on several initiatives inside the consumer experience factory with Michelin. She's managing the DAM project itself. She works as a business analyst, and she also works on the product information management system, on data-driven content and features for the websites. And she's going to talk a bit about the ecosystem and really data-driven content that she works on a day-to-day basis. Fred, I'm sure many of you who are Henry Stewart frequenters already know Fred, who's always been attending all the Henry Stewart conferences over the years and is sort of a staple of our community. So he's actually working as the DAM product owner right now, working with the team of librarians at Michelin, kind of running all the stand-ups, and he's engaged in requirements gathering and really prioritizing, working with Salesforce, the DAM, the CMS, and just generally working on innovative initiatives within Michelin. So very excited to have Fred today. And then finally we have Sébastien, who is VP of Sales and Operations for Wedia, our sponsor today. And his focus for the last 5 years has been to help brands and retailers really tackle and improve their marketing operations, digital transformation, and DAM challenges. So he works a lot with many of Wedia's global clients like Harley-Davidson, Estee Lauder, and of course works on the global sales strategy. So I think I'm going to hand it over to Sébastien first, I think, is going to speak, and yes. I'll come back with questions later. Please make sure, everyone who's on, that you can submit your questions on the GoToWebinar panel under the questions tab, and I will be looking at those as they come in, and we'll ask them at the end of the webinar. Thanks, Sébastien.
Thank you very much, Teresa. Please, in order to start, I'd like to tell you that you'll be able to find additional information about this topic, as well as some info about the Michelin use case on our website at wedia-group.com. And now, in order to properly kick off the session, I'd like to share with you a few interesting charts regarding this topic. The first one is coming from the Statista Institute. It has been released in mid-2020. It really shows the evolution of e-commerce sales globally over a 9-year period from 2014 to 2023. And what we are seeing now is that it has been consistently growing for those years. The trend is clear, and it won't change past this year. In less than 10 years, the increase has been almost 5-fold. The second chart I'd like to share with you is the US e-commerce penetration, and it's a 10 years chart as well. And basically what we see it as is that this trend that has started a long time ago is keep growing over the years. And an interesting fact we see here is the first quarter of 2020, because of the crisis, market experienced a quite high spike of going to about 33%. So it's multiplied by 2, 10 years growth in just 3 months. So during this period, we also ourselves witness some evolution from our customer or coming from the market, depending on each other's implication with the e-commerce. And there are really three big categories of players. So first of all, the pure player, like say Amazon. As we know, they really thrived during this period, financially speaking. But in the background, they had to invest a lot of money in infrastructure, in people, in order to absorb this spike. The second category, let's call them the hybrid or click and collect, all the brands that used to sell indirectly or having already an e-commerce channel, like some of our customers, Estée Lauder, Michelin. They did experience a slowdown in shop sales, obviously, but it has been partially compensated by online sales. The last one, the more traditional retailers or brands that only were available on the shops, they were the one who suffered the most during this crisis. And finally, what we've seen is that some of them, even the smallest, did take some this as an opportunity in order to build from the ground up a new channel. Aside from the pandemic, it's clear that the shift towards online is here. It's been driven by many factors, starting with the simple adaptation to this generational behavioral shift of the consumer to digital, but it's not the only one. It's clear that today, if you want to touch your customer as much as possible, the web, the e-commerce or the online is another touch point for them to ensure that you increase your exposure to those customers. Obviously, that's not all. Everybody wants to boost sales thanks to this channel and also increase margin in specific scenarios like direct to consumer approaches. So where are you, Lucille, today with Michelin in terms of e-commerce?
So we are more in like consumer that are buying tires right now. They are more looking online before buying in physical stores. So we are more in a pre-purchase phase where, for example, just give you some example, in last year, 9% of the consumers in Europe, they declare having visited Amazon website before purchasing, but only 1% of them will buy tires within Amazon. So right now, within Michelin, we expect the business to grow 3 times within the 5 next year. Okay. But it's still a market that is not super mature on e-commerce, but of course it will grow, and we are putting our strategy in that, and we have some tools such as the team and the DAM to be on that change.
So thank you, Lucille. So now it's quite obvious that we have to go online. There are a few challenges to tackle, and maybe the first one, or the most obvious, is the fact that customer can no longer touch, try, or actually see the product as they used to be in the shops. So what they have to do, they have to experience it through their kind of digital twin, the representation of those products on the websites. And it can definitely not provide fewer emotions, because ultimately this is what makes the sale of any product. The next important fact that we have seen in some analysis a few weeks ago is that there is a demand elasticity, which means that nowadays customer may change may decide to change the brand they are willing to buy just because there is a better discount on another brand somewhere else. So that's very important, and that would lead not only the I would say the content strategy, but also probably the price strategy. In the second part of this presentation, I wanted to share with you a few challenges that brands are usually facing in this endeavor. And basically the three main categories of challenges are the following, and we'll cover some of the challenges in each of these categories: so business challenges, technical challenges, and organizational challenges. The first challenge, business challenge, I would say, it's not really new. It has been around for years, but clearly in a scenario where you have to use your brand, show your product in multiple platforms, channels, etc., the consistency is a must. You have to make sure that wherever consumers are looking at your brand or your product, they have a consistent vision of this product and on your brand. So that's really critical, and you want to make sure that you choose what you want to show and not let others, like the retailer or e-retailer, decide for you. So Lucille, do you have any specific observation on this topic at Michelin?
Yes, so when we launched the DAM and the PIM project, it was one of the things we saw before. So we had content on a lot of different websites, some marketplace, the internal websites, and nothing was consistent. So we were spreading different messages, different assets, and there was no consistency. So the PIM and the DAM, they are really here to help having that consistency and share the same message across our touch points.
Okay. So now, obviously, we know that online is important, media are important, and media are so important that this led to a tremendous number of created assets by the brands. So they would cover all aspects of the product, ranging from the all facets photo of the product, in context photo, UGCs, lifestyle 360s, rich media, user guides, video tutorial, and even 3D mockups sometimes, let alone all associated renditions to serve any channel or devices that would be used by your consumers. So it has to be addressed. And for instance, maybe Michelin, you can, or Lucille, you can share some thought about what you have today, the volumes, and how you manage it today.
Yeah, so we started the DAM project 1 year ago. We have now a bit more than 230,000 assets, and we are still making some asset migration. So it's growing each day. And in terms of content creation, we don't have all the group's assets right now coming on the DAM, but approximately the librarians, they're handling 5,000 assets per week, which is quite what they did before in 1 or 2 months. So yeah, we have a large volume of assets coming up each week, each month, and it's growing very fast.
So finally, your DAM project led to an increase in number of created content because it's simpler, maybe.
The DAM and the PIM, because to have a good, like to syndicate to some e-retailers, we needed specific assets that we didn't have before, and there was some content strategy to build those assets. So yeah, with having in mind that we need to syndicate more things to our e-retailers. For example, we need to have photos of each of our articles and not just our product ranges. So that's implied to create a lot of assets.
Okay. Another critical challenge is the time to market. In the past, some of our customers, like Decathlon, they had to wait weeks after the photo shoot to be able to actually use the photos, the images on their sites. And it's no longer acceptable in today's fast-moving environment, because time usually means an increased risk of leak, counterfeit products, copycats, and potential late arrival on the market, which can be critical for some brands. Another aspect, quite key in the market, is the efficiency. So you want to make sure that you are using the best-selling content for each product, depending on the situation, whether the channel, the geo, even the type of retailer, and sometimes going even further with the category of consumer. Hence, getting feedback from the usage or the performance of those assets, getting scorings, efficiency information, or simply testing those assets is quite important. So I think that you've got a good story about this, Lucille.
Yes, we have the DAM project, and the DAM team is not in charge of creating the content, but we had one chance is that our business lines, they had also projects in parallel to redo all of their content. It's starting with the major business line we have at Michelin, which is the passenger car. And what they did, they observed the market and see which content were performing well. Based on those observations, they created new copywriting of their product, and they delivered new assets based on those observations. So that is being entered right now within the PIM. It's being localized and then entered. And for sure, when the syndication will go on, we have some analytics behind to see what are the contents that are performing. I'm talking more in the future for this, because we are at the first step of syndicating from the PIM to the retailers. So still a lot to learn there.
And obviously, you don't want to lose this hard-earned money in legal fees. So it's quite key to make sure that every asset or every content is free of rights or can be used where it has to be used, and so rights are managed and secured accordingly to this. So again, I think Lucille, you had some stories here.
Yeah, the right management is quite a challenge. We have some example at Michelin. We change our creative agencies. So all of our content, they had the right on it. So the next day the contract was over, we needed to put everything in archive mode. So we really need to have a flexibility there. And we also have some, I would say, not good examples. But yeah, we got some issues sometimes where people giving us their content are not giving us the associated rights. So yeah, sometimes within a video, you have a particular audio and we only have the rights for a certain period of time. The video is still being displayed by some other countries, and then we get attacked because of that. So yeah, the rights management is really a challenge. It's not just the tool itself, but it's also a lot of awareness and explaining to people that they need to give us the rights associated to their media. Otherwise, I mean, we cannot guess.
Thank you for sharing. And now let's move to the technical challenges. And one of the most important is the integration capability. So you've all invested millions of dollars in various solutions or online related programs. So you have to make sure that everything is consistent, well talking together, whether inside the company. We talked about the PIM, we'll talk about it later as well, but you can talk about e-commerce site, CRM, etc. But even going further and being integrated in the extended ecosystem with your partners, for example, with syndication platforms and so on. As I mentioned earlier, efficiency in analytics is key. And usually it's difficult to have a clear view of the comprehensive efficiency of your content, of your platforms, if they are not sharing data. So that's very important to have a place, maybe a business intelligence platform, a CDP or data lakes that would be fed by all solutions in order to help you get the information, a global view of all the efficiencies. Another key aspect is the diffusion. So I would say that nowadays you want to make sure that your consumer would experience the solution or experience the product in the best way possible, whatever is their device. They can use an iPad, they can use a tablet, Android, they can use a computer, and this would affect, clearly, technology speaking, the type of solution to deliver this, and maybe the quality of the network would also have an impact to it. So you want to make sure that whatever the network, whatever the device, whatever the channel they are using, they will always have the optimum experience and see the assets in the best way and your product the same. Oops. And I think Lucille, you had something to share about this as well.
Yeah, for us, it's not just having a dam and providing assets. It's also making sure all of the system that comes can connect to the dam and have the right data at the right time. So the PIM, Salesforce, we'll talk about that later. We're getting our media URL within the dam, and then they're like spreading that to their targets, and they can, like, each of the system connected to the dam can request some certain rendition of the assets. So and that's where you do it. It's within the dam that allows this capability of having a lot of different rendition and adapting to what the systems are requiring.
Yes. Now, if you want to address your customers globally, localization and geo-personalization of marketing content is a must. So you must ensure that assets and content are not only translated, but also taking full account of all specific requirements of local markets, like cultural requirements, specific laws, and copyright you may own for some geographies and not for other geographies. Another level of personalization, though quite more complex, I would say, is the ability to provide content that are context aware. In short, this means that they would adapt to the user depending on the context, using account information, session data, or channel details. The next key challenge is around organization. So we all know that any project is not only technical, but is conveyed or managed by people, and usually this may lead to some challenges. And in short, going online, creating e-commerce sites, or selling through e-retailers or marketplaces channels would require probably new competencies, new processes, and sometimes full-fledged organization that would be able to manage this change. And it cannot be improvised, clearly. I think that Lucille, in Michelin, you did do some specific things around that.
Yes, the change management for such tools is super important because, and it happens with a lot of solutions, but people they're going to think you're quite the magic box. And it's not true. We also need some workflow definition. Okay, all your content is going to be made, your content strategy, and you need to involve people and go within each territories, onboard people, make sure they're going to give you their content the right way, etc. So, and a lot of people, they don't know. When we implemented the PIM in the DAM and we started those projects within the group, a lot of people are completely confused on what's the difference first between the two tools and what concretely do we do. So yeah, you need a project team for sure, but then you really need to accompany that with a change management strategy.
Yes, that's clear. And obviously, when there is a human in the loop, there are always frictions that has to be handled, internal frictions, because maybe you'd ask people to do more things or remove some tasks and give them to new teams that have been set up just for this, but also external frictions, because as long as you are creating a new channel with your own e-commerce site, then this can be seen by your existing partners, retailers, as a new competition, and it's not always pleasing. The last one is the one that is often forgotten at first, but despite the fact that it may encompass many other challenges, this is the content indexation. So with this multiplication of assets, all channels that have to be served, the capability to deliver the right asset to the right place, it's key to handle or to define strategies in order to handle this content. And I think that in Michelin, you have also some experience on this side.
Yeah, we need a really precise indexation, and it's also hard for people to understand that this is key. But again, it's not a magic box. So if you come and just put your content, it will not be spread through your ecosystem. We have a really precise degree of indexation because, for example, within the PIM and for Amazon, we need a tire, a picture of a tire with a 30 degree angle. That is part of our indexation. For some business lines, you're gonna look at your assets based on the usage you have of your tires, etc. So we have a big data model, and inside that, we have a system of indexing to make sure we index the right way for syndication purpose.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, indexation is really key in today's world. So now I'd like to share with you what Wedia will do in this context to support you in this process. And I'll start with a short introduction about the product. And so Wedia is a cloud-based enterprise DAM platform that encompasses 3 key modules: the digital experiences management, the distributed marketing platform, and creative project management. You will see I have selected a few use case or scenarios or experiences that you would be able to do with the product that would be the most beneficial in this retail or e-retail context. The first and foremost element is the single source of truth. So that means that through integrations, APIs, content picker, the stakeholders would be able to get a unified URL and players that would, in fact, deliver the assets wherever they have to be delivered on any website, on any external solution like a PIM, CRM, CMS, etc. And this would, in turn, avoid any data duplication and will help you to manage your copyrights, for example. The second one is related to the player. So I talked about the player before, and the benefit of managing the players from end to end is the capability for the player to get information from the local usage and use this information in order to contextualize the media. The contextualization may be relative to a type of device, but also some information relative to the session. The solution would help you also to edit the asset directly within the tool or within the third-party solution, thanks to the content picker. You'll be able to rotate, flip, resize, mirror the asset, and this would avoid your user to install Photoshop for very light edits that are used for very specific usage. The solution would also help you to manage the mobile-ready hero image, which are used in now or recommended or enforced in some platform like Amazon or marketplaces in order to emphasize some key part of the packaging to make sure that the consumer is making the right choice and is not buying something he doesn't want. We also do provide some content localization solution in order to help you create localized POS or in-store signage in order to empower local teams and optimize local agency fees and making sure that you're spending your budget on the things that are the most beneficial for the local teams. The solution relies on a wide variety of AI services in order to enhance both the UX, but also the efficiency of the user, bringing upfront interesting assets that are related to the one you are using or looking at, but also creating metadata information, translation, etc. Wedia is obviously always on. That's a mission critical feature, I should say, because as long as you are delivering the asset directly on the e-commerce site, there is no way that a consumer opens a website or an e-commerce site and there are no assets available. That's very critical. We do provide a various set of analytics and scoring in order to help you determine what are the media that are working, that are the best selling, and potentially to fuel your creation process, inspire new assets. As we are committed to the retail environment, we know that in the retail world, being focused on SKUs, products, product lines is very key, and it's a mindset almost. So we want to make sure that key stakeholders that are in this environment would have the best experience and won't be lost with a new environment. They were used to the PIM or to the e-commerce, and they want to make sure that they find their ways into the DAM with a view that would reflect the way they think. And last but not least, the user experience. So it's usually underestimated because we know that we can think it's funny or it's nice to have a good experience, but in reality it's more than that, because if you want to make sure that the solution is widely adopted, both internally or externally, if you give access to partners, the press, etc., you have to provide an excellent user experience. And this is what Wedia would offer to your users. So now I'm all set with this part, and I will leave the stage to Lucille and Frédéric, and they will share with you some interesting fact about their projects.
Yes. Okay. So yeah, perfect. Thank you. So why we did the DAM initiative at Michelin, we had an old repository, no database that did have a lot of assets, but yeah, they were indexed, but they were always saying we never find anything within your content center. That's the name of our DAM is the content center. So plus we had some people coming to us with some e-retail problematics, and they needed to have, you know, a system that could distribute their assets to other systems or to some targets. So when we started this project, we have talked to different entities within the group. There was up to 26 DAM or DAM-like identified. So when we say DAM or DAM-like, it can be some SharePoint, some Dropbox, some mini websites, or yeah, there was a lot of those kind of repository quite everywhere within the group. So really the goal was to only have one centralized DAM. We are coming to that. We already decommissioned, I would say, 10 of them between last year and this year. And we are still going on and decommissioning some of the business lines and regions tools. Why we really wanted to do that? Because for us, the DAM is not just the tool, but it's part of an ecosystem, a syndication ecosystem. So we needed the DAM to be connected to our CMS, to our PIM, and to other portals, but we'll see that later. Right now, and I told that at the beginning of this call, we have more than 200,000 assets transferred in 1 year. So if you were there 1 year ago within our content center, there was nothing. And in 1 year, we already have a large amount of assets coming up from a lot of entities within Michelin. It's going on, and we'll go in another level next year when we integrate contents at a local, regional level. Okay. Another stat: we have around 5,000 users that are using the DAM, and around 1,000 user monthly, unique users. Everybody within the group have access to our DAM. It's related to your Michelin address. So potentially everybody in the group can have access, but we are around 5,000 users for now.
Okay.
It's growing. Yeah. And that doesn't include people receiving content through other systems, such as the PIM or the portals.
So while you are talking about the PIM, how is the ecosystem today?
Right now, we have a DAM. It's working pretty well. We still are integrating some contents. It was important for us. It was the first step to have it ready soon, really early in the process, because as we were saying, there's not just e-retailers for Michelin, but the retail part is really important. And they needed to be able to download and to get assets from Michelin. So that they can already do. We already share assets to our retailers. We already share some assets to our e-retailers directly. the ones that are not connected to the PIM, because the PIM is in the early stage. Okay, and with the DAM, we are connected to our systems. Right now, this month, we are doing the connection with our CMS. We have on your side apostrophe CMS. We are currently doing the integration with Salesforce. We have portals at Michelin, and one of the biggest portals is what we call the dealer portal, where all of our clients are. The integration is ongoing. It's almost finished. The technical part is finished, and we are currently looking at getting on board all the countries to make it work in their language. We also share a lot of assets with the press, with the communication department, and all their agencies. We are for sure in a connection with the PIM. So for the PIM for now is deployed for our biggest business lines, the passenger car one, and we already have that connection. So the DAM is actually sending the URLs of the assets within the PIM, and the PIM is sharing that along with product content and product technical information to its targets. So we really, what was important for us, we wanted to separate tools. It's our approach, but yeah, we wanted to have a performing DAM and a performing PIM that really was doing what we were asking it to do. I think Fred had some input on that. Yeah.
Yes, I think it's I think it's a clear representation of any retailer has to do, in fact. So, and maybe two things I can add at the top, because as Eric Chagnot, the CEO of Michelin, is always saying to the team, is 95% of the success is all about the people, and 5% of the technology. And the reason why we were about to achieve the DAM project in less than 1 year is all about these people. And I really appreciate all the team we are working with, and especially manage. And I think this is also the time to give some awards to the manager, just like Patrice Conchien, Rémi Lancry, and I cannot forget also our dear librarians, Marie and Eve. And so that's the most important things. Of course, you need also to find the right technology. And technology-wise, it's very important to get DAM and PIM separate. I see too many often PIM vendors explain that they can do everything, or DAM vendors, they can do PIM. It's not accurate. And so regarding the user experience, the performance, the ecosystem, you need two different systems, okay? And so definitely, and as we can see as a result here, in less than 1 year, and this is very important for the return of investment. You do not have to spend 1 million for DAM system. And in less than 1 year, we were able to migrate more than 200,000 of assets.
And maybe what I can add on top of that, Fred, is the PIM, like it's in the name, Product Information Management, and the products and its assets, but we have a lot of assets not related to products. Michelin, it's more than 100 years of history, so we have a lot of historical assets. We are supporting the motorsports races, things like that. We have a lot of assets regarding like the work being done on our factories, things like that, and those are not related to any product. So yeah, that was a PIM will not be sufficient for us, because some PIM, of course, they have DAM capabilities, but our need was way larger than just having product assets.
Okay, and what was the challenges that you met during this implementation?
I quite said already some. First, again, it's not a magic box. So you need your business lines and your entities to help you. DAM team at least is not there to do the content strategy. Business lines, they need to have a concrete content strategy. They need to define their syndication targets. Okay, who are my targets and how I can reach them. And based on that, we'll look at the assets and make the correct indexation. It's a process. It's not just the tools. And tomorrow, if you implement the tool, it will not solve all your content and assets issues. It really needs to be included within a program first. We already said that, but don't underestimate the resources. To be honest, on our project right now, it's complicated to handle the amount of assets we have, and we know already that we need more human resources for next year to handle all the group assets, because of course, and it's written, a good indexation takes time. It's not just indexing, it's making sure you're indexing the right way for people to find your content. You need to look at your no results, saying, okay, what are people looking at and that I don't have within my DAM, and things like that. You need, of course, to handle the change management. That should not be underestimated as well. We might have underestimated on our side, and I can tell you that now it becomes more and more complicated. So we are putting more investments right now to redo some change management work and training people and making sure everybody understands what do we do and what do they need on their side to do to make sure we get their assets and we syndicate them the right way. And yeah, one of the challenges is, okay, the DAM, it's super powerful because you can connect it to other system. So it's cool because it goes, and assets can go basically everywhere across the web, but it also comes with some risk because if we don't get the right information, okay, do we have the rights on that assets for how long? Should we make some credits on the assets, etc., etc. So now if we don't get the right information regarding the rights and where we should spread those assets, it goes everywhere. So a mistake, sadly, can go everywhere as well.
Okay, and in terms of return, what was the benefit? What were the benefits?
Yes, so there's two phases for us. We are still in phase one, quite at the end, but still in phase one, where it was more about making savings. We had a lot of different tools within the group, and we decommission those tools one by one. So we are making financial savings there when we close those tools. So that was one of the KPI we had, which is basic, but saving money and having everything within one repository. Also, we were looking, of course, at efficiency improvements. The old tools we have, they are, most of them based on old technology, they are not real DAM. It's slow to upload your contents. There was an heavy process. Each time you needed to do several renditions and put them within your tool. And with the new DAM, we just put everything on the DAM. The DAM creates the renditions. It's pretty smooth. You can download pretty smoothly your contents. The upload also is pretty smooth. So we are just saving a lot of time, and time is money. So making savings there. For phase one, another KPI we were looking at was the percentage of no results. So when people were typing their content, if they don't find results, we have on our side, on the analytics part, we have the queries. So when we see some interesting thing that results in a no result, then we are looking with some internal stakeholders to, okay, people are looking for that. Do you have something for us that we could index and put within the DAM? So really, we started with a quite high beginning of this year, quite high percentage of no results. Normal, we didn't have that many assets, but now we have a good score, and we are keeping up on trying to decrease that percentage of no results. So that was for phase one. Phase two will be a bit different, because we will really be in run mode and connected to another bunch of systems. And for sure, we'll look into more syndication KPIs, what assets are being shared, which ones are performing well, and yeah, which one can be interesting to produce more.
Yeah, maybe something I can add at the top is, because we have different types of KPIs. KPIs today are more something as activity reports, as Lucille was explaining. But business-wise, if you really want to get the big picture alongside the life cycle of the asset from the creation phase to the distribution, it's something more. It's something we are calling BI, so where we will be able finally at the end to measure the performance of a campaign, to measure the rating and reviews alongside the syndication of the assets. So that's a very exciting of a subject.
Okay, and what were your decision criteria for the selection process?
The first one we have looked at within Michelin was the user experience. For sure, it depends on your project, but for us, we already knew that we'll need a lot of people within the group to use that tool. We were on an old tool with an old design. It was not performing well. The search was awful. So we, that was our first criteria. Otherwise, we'll knew that nobody will help us, and nobody will be happy, and the tool will be, again, be put aside. And we really needed to have people coming and finding their content and have a brand new UX. So that was our first criteria. The second one was the data model flexibility. Just to give you some examples, but we are quite making data model evolutions every week, because we are trying to connect and connecting to other systems. And if for that business line, there's a criteria that is super important that we don't have in our data model, we need to put it super quickly. Otherwise, we miss some opportunities to spread our assets. So it's really important that we can add some attributes pretty simply, and that we can also enhance our values behind, for sure. One other criteria for sure was the connections potentials. With Wedia right now, we have a REST API. It's easy to request. We also have the content picker for the CMS, for example. So we wanted the DAM to be part of an ecosystem, and not just, I would say, a library where I put my assets, and if people are not downloading them, I'm not doing anything of them. And the last point will be the security compliance. For Michelin, we have a very high security standards. So we need the tools for both the PIM and the DAM to be security compliant and make sure when we have some sensitive assets, but we add the rights, rights management for sure, and making sure we could not access the database and that those were not spread across the world. And so in conclusion, our RFP winners were Wedia for the dam, and within Michelin, we have InRiver as a PIM. And we chose both of them last year. The dam, I already explained where we are. For the PIM, our major business line is onboarded. We already are making some syndication for some countries that are quite advanced. And then it will go, it will be implemented later on some other business lines.
Thank you for sharing these facts. So I think we are all set for the session. So
great, so we've got some questions. Indeed, there's been a number of them that have come in. And there's still a lot of you on the line, so that's great. Please feel free to submit any more questions that you have on the questions tab in your GoToWebinar panel there. We had a question that came early on about librarians and sort of the staff that you have around your initiative. Can you talk a bit about that and how many people are involved in managing all this?
Yeah, so we are quite in an heroic mode, and we are pushing really to get more resources. Right now, we only have 2 librarians. They are not even full time. But we will have more resources, and I'm handling the project management, and Fred is handling the project ownership.
Great.
We are like a team of 10 people between the team and the dam.
Yeah,
and I will say that at one time, sometimes everybody can be a librarian, so it's a good training for all the team.
I think everybody's a part-time librarian sometimes. It often works out that way. Another question around analytics. Somebody was interested in how much you look at the usage of assets, and do you follow the assets to the downstream channels? And if you do, or how are you taking advantage of that knowledge?
Yeah, so for example, when it's spread through the PIM, we'll have the analytics within the PIM. For now, to be honest, we are not super advanced on that. But yeah, we can put some technology to follow our assets and some like markers within the assets where you can check where it's being spread. Right now, we don't follow that much, but it's part of the plan for phase 2.
And in terms of Wedia capability, in fact, we are using the players. So that's the technology that would be embedded into the website or channels. And thanks to this, we are able to get the information about the hits, how many times it has been viewed, and also since we own it, we own this code. And then we are able to use it to get additional information and get it back into the platform.
Great. Okay, we have another question about the nature of the integration between the DAM and the PIM. So is it one directional or is it bi-directional? Meaning, does the data go in one way or both ways?
No, for now it's only one way. So the PIM is retrieving assets from the dam, but we have within the plan to do the other way around as well, just because the PIM can generate finished products information sheet, for example, and that can be retrieved and put within the dam, but later on.
Okay. Someone else asked about the indexing of images, and this is a question I get a lot too. When you have a lot of images that are similar, so a lot of your images, of course, are tires or vehicles, because people have a notion of what your product set is. How do you index those? Is there a lot of variety in how they're indexed, and how do you come up with the sort of the right terms for that and going about it?
But yeah, we have a lot of different attributes on our side because we need to index assets that are so different. We have the red guides, we have the product assets, everything. So so it's a different problematic for each type of assets. We have, to be honest, I think it's around 200 different attributes that allows us to be really precise. So sometimes, yes, you cannot see directly that those are different, but us, we know, because that one, they get the Michelin logo, that one, it doesn't have the logo, that one is a 30-degree angle, that one is not. What we put in place to differentiate products, we ask the assets providers to respect a clear naming convention that we define with them. So in that convention, we have the name of a product, its ID, we have the angle, we have the point of view, things like that. So yeah, we take each of the entities we are working with as we look at, okay, what will you like to share to your consumer, and based on that, we define our data model.
And also, you shared with us a few an interesting secret. I don't know if it's a secret, but a lot of images are in fact CGIs for the tires.
Okay, great. Yeah, that would make sense. Okay, great, very interesting. I find similar things with people who have, lots of images, sort of varieties of one thing. You get more precise with the terms, so people can find more precise things. So that makes sense. Okay, another question. Oh, go ahead.
Yes, something maybe also we can say is, and this is also here, the beauty of indexation we did in less than 1 year is you cannot ask to the AI to do the job. Because a tire is a tire. Most of information are displayed on a curve that nobody can really able to retrieve because this is in a curve. So it's amazing to see finally that some limitation of AI and the beauty of librarians to derive the right content.
Yeah. AI and librarians as a team is much better than either one by itself, for sure. It's great. Okay, another question about Microsoft Office users. So somebody was wondering about how you manage the access of assets through sort of the third-party tools. This person specifically asking about PowerPoint. I know there's a lot of examples, of course, accessing assets through Adobe tools, but how are you doing that with Microsoft Office users?
There's the content picker for that. We did not deploy it at Michelin, but maybe Sébastien can say a word. But yeah, it's possible. We just was not your priority.
Yeah, so in Wedia, we do have a function that is called the content picker. So in fact, it embeds, it kind of embeds the DAM into multiple places, Office, or Word, PowerPoint, Outlook, but also it can be embedded into your third-party solution like the PIM, the CMS, etc., and brings a vision about the DAM content relative to your rights so that you can use the asset directly on those channels.
Okay, we've got a couple more questions, and we can take a few more. We'll go till 1:15 if we keep getting more. What about timing of implementing the solution? How long did it take you from kickoff to actual go live?
We went pretty fast. So we started last year the request for proposal. I think Fred joined us something like in April, May. We did the request for proposal and interviewed people in June, and we started to implement the project in September. In December, it was live. So it's 2.5 months. It's a very short timeline. So we were, ending some contracts, so that's how we needed to do it anyway. But yeah, after 1 year, we are comfortable with what we have in terms of volume, asset quality, and indexation quality, but still a lot of work going on, and especially when you're in a big group with a lot of business lines and a lot of countries that are making business.
Yeah, and I think especially regarding from what we are starting, because I will say that some damn vendors are not really playing the right role. And so migration, which is, I think, one of your favorite theme, Teresa, it can be sometimes very nightmare. And really, we had to work very hard to do these migrations. And especially, it's again also due to the experience of other librarians, because the one we are working with have more than 10 years. And so they were able to really to find out, to filter, to manage. And we're also using a lot of here, which is commonly used by all retailers, ingest a spreadsheet. So because every line is a product, every column is a specification. It's quick and easy to derive from an XML information database or whatever and ingest inside the DAM. So this is usually what's helped us and every day.
Yeah, and Fred is right. Really, we couldn't have made that project that fast if we didn't have experts, DAM experts, and experienced librarians.
That's indeed true. Very important for success, those things. We also had a question around adoption and how you went about driving adoption for the solution, and how has that gone?
We had a chance. There was someone made a study before we arrived in the game, and that person already talked with a lot of people to get their needs. So they were aware of what a DAM is, more at I would say business line level. But then, yeah, it's a day-to-day challenge. We have still people coming up with questions where we think, okay, they did not understand what a DAM does and what a DAM doesn't do. Yeah, we have some training sessions, a lot of presentation on the PIM and on the DAM to clarify question they have. The PIM, they have training sessions. And yeah, we are trying to document everything we have for people to look at. Also, what was really important for us was to have a great support. So when you request something that is not in the content center, when you request access for people outside of the group, we make sure we answer pretty quickly. For people to know, to feel heard and to be sure they will come back within the DAM. So yeah, it's a lot of work to answer to all of those requests, but at the same time, people feel confident with your team and with their knowledge.
Something we can say, of course, it's the user experience was a key point at that stage, because when you are coming from a system when you have to connect to remote things, etc., or something, yet it just as you have to be an engineer, and when you just have drag and drop, easy to use, so it of course it facilitates everything at that stage.
So back to your comment about migration, Fred, which, as you correctly pointed out, is one of my favorite topics. How long did it take? Well, obviously you had a very quick timeline. I mean, 2.5 months is super rapid for this sort of project. But how long did it take you to do the actual migration, and what sort of effort was involved? Because I've tended to find lately that people spend sometimes 2 or 3 times as much time migrating the assets than they do to stand up the solution. What was the case here?
It depends on the repository we had. We had a lot of, so each one is different, and the complexity is not the same for each. Like the main one we had, we made sure that we were publishing assets that were really looked at in the previous version of the DAM. And through the year, we still made some migration. So we retrieved all the database Some were already published, but some others have only been migrated through the year. We finished that this week, and some things are directly going to archive mode because they are outdated or not used. For some other repository, thanks to the team, they did it pretty quickly. So in 1 month, we were able to retrieve everything and you know, index them and put them within the DAM. We also asked the business line to help us to already make some triage, to delete when there were low resolution, things like that. So us on our side, we were already getting, I would say, qualified assets, and that always speed up the process. So it depends, yeah, on the technology that was there. It depends on the amount of assets, for sure, and the help you get from your businesses.
You know, we had another question come in while you were talking specifically about when you launched the DAM, and this is really related to change management. Did you do a soft launch, and was it gradual, or did you do a sort of big bang or a big splash launch? And the context of this is that there's somebody listening who has some people who don't like their DAM, and they're trying to figure out kind of what's the change management plan for that. So can you offer some advice there? Probably Fred can as well, I imagine.
Yeah, we did quite a big splash on our side. So there was no transition. One day there was the old content center. The next day it was the new DAM in place with less assets, but they were easier to find. I'm not sure it's the right method. It depends, I would say, on the situation. On our side, the old DAM was not connected to anything, so I would say the big splash was not like the biggest of a revolution. If your DAM is already connected to our system, I would say it will not have been a good idea to do it that way. But here we had everything to build. So that's the decision we made, to just stop the old solution and to go on with the new one.
Yeah, and I think something we can add is a DAM project is not something you are working 1 day per week. It's every day, and as soon as you're working every day with the people, it facilitates finally the communication, and day by day, week after weeks. Regarding the content and the quality of the content, it definitely helps everybody to be on the right train, and so and also something which is, I will say, for a brand like Michelin, which is also something very interesting, and reason why, of course, this nice job is it's a brand, and they like the brand as it is. So working every day for such a brand definitely makes a difference. So and I will take the example of the maybe I will advise you, because I know that you like France. You have to visit the Museum L'Aventure in Clermont-Ferrand, and this is a clear representation of everything Michelin is doing super well. So it's a mix of technologies, of history. This is the guide, the Michelin guide, the red guide, a lot of things between digital. It's when you're spent 2 hours in the museum, you understand that, okay, I know why Michelin is a leader.
It's funny that you say that, Fred, because I have a friend who decided he was done with the city life, and he recently moved to a farm that's not very far from Clermont-Ferrand. So I think once we're out of all this situation, I will definitely go see that museum. That sounds great. Thank you for that recommendation. Okay, we are out of time. So thank you everyone for attending. Thank you for so many people who stuck for the last 15 minutes here over the hour. And thank you to our wonderful presenters who did an excellent job today. We'll be doing the next session of the Content Hub Revolution next week. I believe it's on Tuesday. So please feel free to join us for the next one. And we will be doing the rescheduled one as well from Media Beacon the week after. And I misspoke. Next week is on Wednesday, again, the 9th. And then the last session will be Tuesday, the 15th. So we have 2 more sessions left, even though this is session number 9, because we had a rescheduled session. So thanks again, everybody, for joining us, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the last 2 of the Content Revolution series. Cheers.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.